But we made it, Baruch Hashem. What is chus? So we are...
No, but they're not here yet.
We have a very special guest here today.
Some chairs are still on the table. We need to set them up.
No, we're going to do it later, okay? All right. She's very quiet now, okay? Okay, Colin, I want to see Colin something very nicely.
Come out, little.
Okay, so we're on Brachas Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis. We're towards the bottom of the page. Actually, about 2/3 of the way down. Says the gemorah.
Pink.
Okay, hold on. Let's just work out where we got up to over here. Got confused. Okay. Rav Nachman Savalak Rabbi Yossi. This nan. What does Rabbi Yossi hold? We'll go back a couple of lines. This nan. Rabbi Yossi aim smadar. Smadar is these grapes. The first shalav when they grow, just berries, buds. We said. Smadar also Beishu pri. It's got a din of arlos. Even the smadar, even though it's barely edible, it's a tiny little bit of grape. It's also an arla because it's called the fruit. Upliga Rabbanan lei. Upliga Rabbanan lei. And Rabbanan argue. Rabbanan say that smadar is not fruit. Smadar is not fruit, and therefore it's muta. So you see that. What do you see from here? We see from here that and the Rabbanan before they told us that anything that grows, we're going to see maskevelo shiba manadai. The Rabbanan only argue with these things, but everything else they agree. Vatnan. From when we already started this? From when can you not grow? From when can you cut down trees and shvius? Once a tree starts giving any type of fruit, you can't chop it down. So each one's got its own share. All the other trees, from when can you not chop it down on shvius? When it gives any type of fruit. Okay, that's actually where we got up to. Amar Rav Asi, who busar, who garua, who palalovon. This basar, the bud of a grape. This is what we called over here garua. The Chacham said, "V'hu sha." His lashon was Mishiyigru. It's fine. Mishiyigru. So this basar is a palalovon. It's a white bean. Pulalov sakadayach, you might think it meant, you mean literally when it grows a white bean. Alaima sheirai kapulalovon. The share of this baisa that has to be that becomes also to chop it down in shvius. If the baisa is the size of a pulalovon, a small white bean. My shamas lay. Who is the one that told us baisa in smadalai? Rabbanan. This is the opinion of Rabbanan that only a busar is the busar is the second stage, right? When it's not just be growing a bud, it's already like a sour grape. So who is the one that says busar in? It's also deep, but the smother, the bud, is mutar. Says the gemorah, Rabbanan. This is the opinion of Rabbanan because contra B'yasi, everything's also. And according to Rabbanan, V'ktani, Shakal Eleinos, all the other trees, Mishiate Siu, as soon as they give any fruit to contra Rabbanan, it's already also Mishum Shvius. Anything that grows even a little bit is Shvius. It's also Mishum Shvius. So Ela Marava, Hacha, Minan, Davi, Shemele Pri. It's the kepa is protecting the free. Hecha de kushakles le shemer mais peri. What is something that protects the fruit called? That's if you take off the leaf, the protection, the shell, the fruit's going to die. Here, if you take off the capers, the caper, it's not going to kill the berry. It can still live. In other words, it does some type of protection, but it's not going to. The fruit's not going to die if you take it off. Someone took off the flower of the pomegranate. The yavish remainer, the pomegranate dried out, died. They took off the perach, the caper of the berry, the Chaim betisa, and it lived. In other words, you don't need it to live. It's fine. It can stay without it. Whole new gemorah over here. All right. Whole new shilas over here. A bunch of new things we're going to be discussing. First of all, peppers. What bracha do you make on pepper? The spice. Pilpuli. Pepper.
Peppa Pig.
Pepper, not Peppa Pig, just pepper. Shas Oima Shakol. What bracha do you make on pepper? Shakol. It grows on some type of tree, bush, but you say shakol. Rav Amar Leiklum. You don't make any bracha on pepper. Why don't you make a blessing when you eat pepper? Because it's not roy lachila. People don't eat pepper. It's a spice. You put it in your food. So therefore it doesn't deserve its own bracha. For the Rava time, may Rava goes according to his opinion. The Omar Rava, kas pilpuli b'le'ebet kipuri. A guy eats pepper on Yom Kippur. The one day a year you have to fast midoraisa, or as the main day of the year you have to fast midoraisa. You're not allowed to eat, but a guy chews pepper, he eats pepper. Rashi says we use the lotion of kas whenever it's something you don't normally eat. Potter, he's not chayiv. Normally, if you eat on Yom Kippur, a person's chayiv kares. But if you eat pepper, you're not chayiv kares. It's not food. Kas zangvila b'yom kippuri. If you eat ginger, zangvili l'chayr is ginger.
But nobody's listening to
B'yom kippuri on Yom Kippur, potter, you potter. Same thing. If you eat pepper, you eat ginger, you potter. Mesivei. Rav Meir, the Gemara Sakasha. Rav Meir mimash mishenem v'araltem salosai es piriyai ein yedeh sheitz meichel hu. It says in the pasuk v'araltem salosai es piriyai. It has a din of arla. Ein yedeh sheitz meichel hu. Why does it say es? The rest. I know we're talking about a tree. Alamat tamaloim eitz meichel. Why does it say eitz meichel, a fruit tree? Lavi eitz shetam eitz al yapiriyai shova. To include any type of tree that the bark has the same taste as a fruit, well, there is a taste in the actual bark. It's also. Ve'ezu, what type of tree are we talking about that you can eat the bark? Zapilpelin, this is pepper. In other words, the pepper, you're eating the stem. The lamdecha, to teach me shapilpelin, chayavin, ba'arla. This tells me that peppers are chayv ba'arla. Pepper, not red peppers, but pepper, the spice. It's chayv in arla. You are not allowed to eat it in the first 3 years. That's what the Araltim es piriyai tells me. That also when the bark, not just fruit of a tree, also bark itself. This pasuk is also teaching me that Eretz Yisrael isn't lacking anything. Everything's in Eretz Yisrael. Everything's in Eretz Yisrael. Everything's there. We got everything. Like kasha, the Gemara says it's not a kasha. So this would apply. The kasha is that this applies. That pepper, you chayv arla. So pepper, if you chayv arla, it's a food. If it's a food, so you have to make a bracha. Why should you say that you don't make any bracha? That's a kasha. Le kasha. If it's wet, the wet pepper before it dries out, people eat it. It's edible. Once it dries out, use it as a spice. It's no longer a food. Chacham said to Mureimar, kasang vila b'yem dekapuri potter. You chew ginger on Yom Kippur, you potter. You're not chayv kares. V'amar Rava says, ha'hamalta dasai mibei hundoi. Hamalta is a ginger concoction, some type of medicine they made with ginger. Dasim Bei Hindoi, and it came from Chutzars. They brought it in from Hindoi. So machlekes, if that's Rashi says we're talking about Ethiopia. Others say it means Hindoi means from the place, I guess, the Hindus, India, Hindoi. So Gemara says Sharia. So they got this medicine that came from India with ginger, and it's mutter to eat it. Now, why is it mutter? What bracha do you make on this ginger sticks? It was ginger with honey, the Mepharshim explain. You say, Bayer Pri Adama. So why is it Sharia? Take a look in Rashi. Rashi says, Sharia, Ein Balai Mishum Bishuli Nochrim. It's not Bishulakum. So they would cook it over there in India with honey. And it's not, normally you can't eat food that's got Bishul Nochri. But here it's mutter. Why? Since you can eat it raw, then there's no problem if they cook it. And we don't have to worry that it's cooked in a pot that had non-kosher food in it before. Normally, anything if you cook in a pot that has non-kosher food in it before, you can't use it. It absorbs from the wall of the pot the flavor of the pig or whatever it is. Here in this case, it's mutter. Why? So Rava holds that Rava is of the opinion that Noisim Tam Lepkam is mutter. Anything that adds flavor but derogatory, it makes it worse, that's mutter to eat. You're not actually having any physical dovara, so anything that's not kosher, but stuff that's coming into the pot is adding flavor to it, but it's adding a bad flavor. You're ruining the taste, and that's mutter to eat, even if the flavor it's adding is from a non-kosher food. Noisim Tam Lepkam, you're adding bad food, and since normally it's always after 24 hours that something was cooked in it, it's always noisim tam lepagam. It's always not making it better. It always makes it taste worse. Therefore it's mutter to eat. So you see here that you do make a bracha on ginger. What bracha do you make? Bar Pri Adama. The Gemara answers like kasha haber tifta habibeshta. Again, there's a difference between wet ginger and dry ginger. Wet ginger you eat, dry ginger you don't eat. Chovitz gedera v'chen daisa. Chovitz gedera is some type of, Rashi says, they would mix kimcha v'duvsha or mashra, they would mix wheat, honey and oil and make some thick thing. V'chen daisa. Daisa is porridge. Daisa is ground wheat that's put in there. It's ground wheat that's put in there. It's bothering now, soon, okay? Daisa. What's a bracha? What bracha do you make on porridge, which is ground wheat with water, boiled in water, or boiled with milk, whatever, however you make it. You don't say bari meim nezaynis, you make a shakol niya b'dvarai, the general bracha for everything. Rav Chaim bari minim ezaynis. What bracha do you make? You make a bari minim ezaynis, which is a bracha you make when you have a donut. You have something mezaynis, you have a cookie. You make a bari minim ezaynis. So on porridge, you make also bari minim ezaynis. And that's the halacha, the little thing that says that's halacha. But daisa grade, kula alman lo piki the bari minim ezaynis. If you have just porridge by itself, no one argues. Of course, you make bari minim ezaynis. Kipliki b'daisa ke'ein chavit kedera. When did they argue about daisa? If you have daisa that's similar to chavetz kedera, it is thicker thing that's chavetz kedera. Rav Yehuda Amar Shakal, Savad Duv Sheka. Rav Yehuda, if you have this porridge with tons of honey in it, he says you make a shakal. Why? Even though there's wheat in it, but there's also tons of honey, and the honey is the main part. You're having it for the sweetness, for the honey. So what do you make? You make a shakal. Rav Kahana, Sava Smirda Ikar. According to Rav Kahana, you say a Bar Minim Zainis, that the wheat part's the main part. So on the wheat you make a Bar Minim Zainis. Just because there's tons of honey, you want the honey. That's not the main thing. The main thing is the wheat. I think Rav Kahana is right. Rav Shmuel, Rav Shmuel both say Kol sheyesh by mechamesh haminim mevachim ala b'yirei minim zaynais. Rav and Shmuel both say that anything that has chameshes minim 5 minim, you say b'yirei minim zaynais. In other words, chameshes minim is everything except for yain and remainim or dates. In other words, eretz chita seira, all those things. You say on all of them you say b'yirei minim zaynais. Says the Gemara, Gufa. The Gemara is going to now analyze this din about what bracha you make on chamesh minim. You have wheat, you have barley, you have grain. It says, Rav Shmuel Dam Mitavaya, they both said, Kol sheyesh by mechamesh minim, anything that's got from the 5 minim, you say b'yirei minim zaynais, anything that has in it, Kol sheyesh by, anything that has in it from the 5 minim, any dish you have with some wheat in it, with barley in it, what bracha do you make? B'yirei minim zaynais. V'itmar nami, there's another name where Rav Shmuel Dam Mitavaya, they both said, Kol shehu mechamesh minim, v'achal b'yirei minim zaynais. Anything that it is itself from the 5 minim make b'yirei minim zaynais. So what's the difference? Why here does it say if it's got in it 5 minim b'yirei minim zaynais, and the other memra says if it is from the 5 minim make a b'yirei minim zaynais? Tzricha. You need both. You need to tell me both of these l'shaynis. Why? Diyashmin, and if you would just tell me kol shehu, diyashmin kol shehu havamina mishum deisa be'enei. Only if it is itself from the 5 minim, you'd say b'yirei minim zaynais. Aval ale taroivus lai. You might think if you mix some barley into your soup or into your cholent, that you don't say b'yirei minim zaynais. Kumash malan. So we are now on Lamed Zayin, Lamed Aleph, up at the page. Kumash malan kol shehu yesh by. Anything that has in it 5 minim, you say b'yirei minim zaynais, even if it's not just itself b'yirei minim zaynais. So why can't you just say kol sheyesh by? Why do you have to also say kol shehu? V'yashmin kol sheyesh by. If you tell me just anything that has with it in it, you say b'yirei minim zaynais. Havamina kol sheyesh by chamesh minim in. Anything that has within it chamesh minim, yes. Aval oirez v'duchan lai. But rice, oirez is rice, and duchan is millet. So machlekes if it's the other way around or that way around, but we assume that oirez means rice. And duchan is millet. Millet is little tiny balls of grain, gluten-free. So aval oirez duchan lai. I might think that oirez, rice, and duchan is not like that. Mishum ta'ali de tarevis. Only if it's mixed together do you say a b'yirei minim zaynais. Aval isa be'enei. If you have I might think if you have a rice by itself, you cook rice, you got whole rice. You might think that for rice you should also make a b'yirei minim zaynais. Kumash milan koshu michamesh minim. Only if it is itself chamesh minim do you make a b'yirei minim zaynais. This comes to exclude rice and millet. If you eat rice, you don't make a b'yirei minim zaynais on rice. According to this opinion, we'll see there's those that argue. We don't pass like this. But the Rav Shmuel are coming to say that only if, or the Gemara wants to understand Rav Shmuel to mean that if you have rice and millet in a dish, you make a b'yirei minim zaynais. But if you have it by itself, you don't make a b'yirei minim zaynais. What's the difference? Why would you think that one you do have to make a b'yirei minim zaynais, the other you don't have to make a b'yirei minim zaynais? So there's two. The Pnei explains there's 2 reasons why the Gemara thought you have to make a b'yirei minim zaynais. Either because it's from the 5 minim, either it's from one of the big 5, or because it satiates you. So the Gemara thought that the Gemara's argument was that you're only going to be chayiv a b'yirei minim zaynais. Either way, you're chayiv b'yirei minim zaynais, according to this opinion. You chayiv b'yirei minim zaynais. It fills you up. Say b'yirei minim zaynais. And we don't care about the fact that you don't need the yeshivs of the fact that it's grain. The maskana is, according to this opinion, that only either it has to satiate you or it's got to be a grain. If you're having just a bit of rice and it doesn't satiate you, and it's not grain, then you don't say Bari B'nei Mezainis, you say Bari Pri Adama, you say Shakol. V'ayres, says gemorah, V'ayres, like Mevarach Bari B'nei Mezainis, is that true? That we don't make a Bari B'nei Mezainis on rice? Vatanya. There's a brisa that says, Avi lefan of pas Ayres, a pas duchan, they brought a guy bread made from rice. I never seen that before, but rice bread, or pas duchan, millet bread. You make a bracha on it, the same thing as you make a bracha on a maisa kedera. What's a maisa kedera? Kedera means a pot with chulent, with barley, with wheat. It's the same thing. Meaning you make a bari b'nei mezainis, you say ala mechia. So the implication is that on rice you do make a bari b'nei mezainis. Why would they say you don't make a bari b'nei mezainis on rice? The brisa says you do say bari b'nei mezainis on rice. So the Gemara says, v'gabi ma'isa kedera. What's the din with ma'isa kedera? Tanya, it says, "B'tchila mevarach alav bar b'nei mezainos, v'leseif mevarach alav bracha mein achas mein shalish." The first bracha you make before you have your barley soup or your barley chulet, you say bar b'nei mezainos, and afterwards you make a bracha mein shalish, ala mechia. So the Gemara answers, "K'maisa kedera v'loy k'maisa kedera." It's like the maisa kedera. It's like this chulet with wheat in, but it's not like, and it's another aspect. It's not like that. It's like a ma'isa kedera that you have to make a bracha at the beginning and a bracha at the end. But it's not like a ma'isa kedera because the ma'isa kedera tchila bar b'nei mezainis. With this ma'isa kedera, the first bracha is a bar b'nei mezainis for the wheat, and afterwards you say a bracha mein shalish ala michya. Here the first bracha you make is Shakol Nebedvarai. V'levasayif Bari Nefashes Rabbis. You say Bari Nefashes. So according to this opinion, you're going to say a Shakol and a Bari Nefashes at the end. Bari Nefashes Rabbis v'ches Reinan. I'm being attacked. I'll call Mashabara. So Taisus explains, what is this bracha? Bari Nefashes Rabbis, literal translation is afterwards you say, you created many nefashos. You created many nefashos, many people. And the fact that they are lacking. Hashem created everyone with things that they're lacking. They've got a lot of needs. Do you mind waiting a few minutes for that? Do you mind waiting a few minutes? It's very loud. No problem. So, Bari Nefashos Rabbis. So Taisus says, take a look at Taisus. What is the top Taisus? Bari Nefashos Rabbis Chesrainim. We say this every day, a few times, some of us. What does this mean? So, Kumay Lechem Umayim Chesrainim, Taisus is saying, Bari Nefashos Rabbis Chesrainim. You created a lot of people, V'chesrainim. And things that without it, the chosa, you're lacking. Kumay Lechem Umayim. Without bread and water, you can't live. You need lechem and mayim to live. She efsheh b'leihem. You can't live without bread and water. So that's what it means v'chesroinam. Va'al kol masher bara la'achis b'em nefesh kol chai. And then on top of that, you made all sorts of things la'achis b'em nefesh kol chai, to give you life. Koloimar al kol masher ba'ilam shegamim loy baram yichaylu alam lechyais. All the things in creation that you made to make life more interesting, to make life more variable, more variety. You don't need it to live. You can live with bread and water. Guy's not going to die if he has good bread and water. But you gave us all sorts of other things. Kugain kimna tainug. You gave it us for pleasure, to enjoy. Kumoy tapuchim. Hashem created apples. People could live without apples. There's people that never ate apple in life, they live. So that's al kol mashavos al hachis bevesh kochai. All the things Hashem created in order to live, in order to give you chiyas. Baruch chei olamim, thank Hashem. So that's how Taisus explains the pshat in the bracha, that you created nefashos rabbos, you created many people, or many creatures. V'chesreinam, you created them with things that they need to live. You gave them bread and water. Without it, it's hard for them to live. And on top of that, al kol mashabrasa You gave him all sorts of interesting things to eat to make life better, to give him pleasure. The Maral has a different shot over here. The Maral says, Bayer Nefashis. The Nefashis means you create the things that give you life. The Nefashis is life things. Bread, water, you need to live water. You need bread to live. And the Chesroinam is things that without it you'd be lacking. If you didn't have onions, you'd be lacking. If you didn't have, I don't know what, the French say without garlic you can't live. It's the stuff you don't have, you're going to be majorly lacking. The Chesroinam. In other words, you don't need it to live. You don't need barley to live, but without it, it'd be hard to get by. And then Al Kol Masher Barasa Baruch Elobim. And then on top of that is all the geschmack things in the world that help you live, that make life more enjoyable. So according to the Maral, there's 3 stages. Nefashis doesn't refer to he created many people or many creatures. He created things that you need to live, bread and water. And then the Chesroinam and things that without it you'd be lacking. Like, I don't know, there's plenty of stuff without it you'd be lacking. And then Baruch Elam, all the geschmack things that make life more enjoyable, like apples. So says the Gemara. Back to the Gemara. Says the Gemara. Va'ir is lav masikaderuhu. Also, Gemara is rice. Not Maisa Kedera. Is rice not something that's cooked? Vatanya. We're going to finish in 1 minute. We have to wrap up over here. Actually, we're going to carry on tomorrow. We got to the end of this section and it's running out of time. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.